Okay, cool.
So yeah, we should be live right now, and hopefully the audio is much better than the last time. Have you listened to the previous podcast?
Not in its entirety, no. No, definitely not.
Have you
I don't
listened
even
to it?
I think you showed me a few seconds, but not anything worth meeting as
That's too bad. Well, you're not missing out on much, just because the audio quality was a little spotty. It was like pops and cracks and kind of coming in and out. So I'm hoping. So we bought a mic. It's strung up between us right now.
We're living large.
Yeah, living large. It's cheap, but hopefully it works, and hopefully the sound quality is better in this episode, so we can actually listen to each other.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. It's good to be here.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for making time. Like I said, just super chill. Honestly, just having a conversation. So the first thing that I kind of want to hit home is kind of the why behind this podcast. Pretty much, I don't know. There are maybe 3 reasons behind it. Reason number 1, it just gives me an excuse to talk with cool people.
Right.
So whether that's family, friends, strangers that I meet, it's just like, hey man, like I would love to catch up with you. Just kind of pick your brain about stuff and just have a cool conversation. And it's rare, especially as a guy. I think it's weird to be like, hey dude, I really vibe with you. Like, can I get your number? It's like, yo.
Very understandable.
Yeah. So I think it provides a means of communication that's a bit more natural.
Well, I'm
Plus,
glad
it gives me an excuse to talk with, like, family and friends too.
Sarah, I'm glad I made it on your list of cool people. So,
dude, you were number 2.
It's quite a list.
Right after Jesus, so I don't feel bad.
That's right.
Cool.
Steep competition.
Yeah. Actually, I feel like we should introduce you to the people. I know this is episode 2, so we have a following of about 2 people currently. But still, James Richardson deserves an introduction. So you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, my own introduction. I don't. Let's see. Well, I have come from the same place as my siblings, lo and behold, from the small town of Twainhart.
Little would you know.
Odd fact there. Yeah, nothing peculiar there, but we grew up being adventurous folk, and we climbed trees and buildings and cars and siblings for that matter.
You climbed siblings, huh?
We did. Yeah, we tackle each other all the time.
A lot of wrestling.
For sure.
Who won?
Lots of wrestling. It would be a toss-up. I feel like Benjamin would win if he were to join, but Logan was the bigger brother for most of my growing up. Benjamin was...
Really? You never wrestled Benjamin?
I don't think so, no.
Really?
Not usually.
Well, you're missing out, man. That was some serious pummeling.
Oh, he has that's fierce competition.
Yeah, he was a big boy back in the day.
He's a strong man then.
I mean, he still is, Benjamin. If you're listening to this, man, you are still jacked.
Very much so. So I grew up in the mountains. I consider myself a mountain man, but I enjoy being dirty for only select periods of time. And that's reflected in my valley self when I moved down there when in between sophomore and junior year. And I met some good friends there, had a dandy old time there and learned more about the gospel there. And then my personality eventually became my ability to crack gospel related jokes in their entirety. And then I carried that on throughout my mission as well.
So does anybody grasp your gospel related jokes? Because I feel like you need a pretty unique understanding of scripture to get it.
I feel like usually most people are able to comprehend the basics of it. Maybe not the full extent and maybe what I was exactly shooting for, but it also heavily depends on context. So for example, on my mission, people are used to hearing about gospel things.
That makes sense.
Or they're used to hearing about it or being exposed to it. So with missionaries, it's a lot easier for jokes to hit because one, they're very familiar with it, and 2, after they got to know me, they almost expected it. But these days, most people don't understand me that way. So if I do crack a joke, and it tends to be a little bit dry as well, or a little bit sarcastic in a minor way, and people don't know if I'm being serious or not because I don't always. I'm not super expressive. So when I'm around Finnish folk who understand me in that manner, they definitely understand the jokes, and also it's like they egg it on kind of thing.
Yeah,
where they can pull it out of me, the better self, jokes wise. So when I'm around them, they'll create like a fake tally of like how many gospel jokes is Richardson going to put out tonight. So it depends what crowd I'm around. They got certain jokes.
Gotcha. Is the Finnish sense of humor relatively dry?
Usually, yeah. They're, I'd say, almost non-existent, frankly.
Really? They're just not a funny people? Which is probably a gross generalization.
Sure, yeah. There are some hilarious people there, but generally I didn't get to the point where I was able to fully understand people, at least in Finnish, that is.
Okay.
I never was able to be a Finnish guru or
I guess it's
language
kind of a
guru.
prerequisite to understanding humor. You need to know the language.
Yeah, and humor's on a different level too. It's not just the language, but also the intricacies and human nature.
Yeah.
And trying to express that in a foreign language, much less Finnish, is definitely a difficult thing
No,
to
that's
do.
fair. I remember when I went down to Brazil for my mission, one of the natives was telling me, like, yo, you know, when you're really fluent is when you can start making jokes in Portuguese. It's like,
fair.
that's top tier language skills.
Yeah, so it was definitely a struggle in Finnish. But the people who were able to converse in English, even if they were Finns, they got a little bit more of my humor, and that came out definitely in spiritual thoughts.
Cool, cool. So we've kind of been dancing around it, but yes, you served a mission in Finland, the Helsinki, Finland mission, right?
That's right. Long emphasis on the Helsinki mission.
I've heard that one before. That's funny. Well, you did your 2 years. That's off
right.
to you.
That's right.
Nice. Well, anything more about yourself?
More or less covers it. Yeah, now I'm trying to educate myself, and it doesn't mean I'm educated, but I'm in process of learning, which I hope we all are.
Cool. That's a solid step one. Yeah, you're at BYU. And if I can add to your little bio,
Fire away.
James is one of the most athletic individuals I know. It is insane. Like, I consider myself to be a fairly athletic person. Like, I have a good vertical. Like, I can dunk a basketball. I can do a backflip. You know, like a general athletic guy. But James, what are you, like 5'10"?
On a good day, probably 5'9", close to
If
5'9".
you wake up and measure yourself immediately, you know, before gravity.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, but like you jump higher than I do. I think you jump further than I do. You run faster than I do. And it's insane to watch. Like when we play soccer, you're so quick, so agile. So that's seriously impressive. And James is just a cool, fun guy. So there's a little bio for you.
Well, it's very kind of you. I reckon maybe my spiritual or my physical attributes might have come down to when I was in high school. I had a difficulty with my ankle for a while, and they decided to pump me full of steroids in the foot. So
And you hurt your ankle playing soccer, right?
probably
You're not sure.
we're unsure as to how it happened. But anyhow, I got steroids pumped into it, so I'm hoping that those steroids flowed throughout, and that's where I got my powers from. It's kind of like
it's like a Captain America.
Kind of like a Captain America situation. It's probably not reality, but that is one way.
So where can I get this steroid injection?
You know, that's a good question. We'll have to pause the podcast.
Talk about that. That is
nah, just your local neighborhood foot doctor.
Privy information, right?
Yes.
Nice, good stuff, man. So we were just listening to what's the name of the artist? I was saying Master Yoshi Teriyaki.
That's right.
It's probably culturally insensitive.
Yeah, maybe I should. Yeah.
Okay, so what's his actual name?
It's Masayoshi Takanaka.
Masayoshi,
according to my understanding. Yeah.
Okay.
I learned him on my mission. We did lots of sauna, and we were allowed to listen to certain types of music fairly easily on our mission. And my newest companion, he showed me this song one day in the sauna. I just absolutely loved it. And the sauna is it's a place in which you relax and you converse, and you're really there it's an experience for sure. And this music just added to our bonding time together, and we were conversing. I just loved it. And it turns out it wasn't just a single song, but like hours of music, and I just loved it. So, and I couldn't get his name right for the longest time, so I'd call him all sorts of hilarious and perhaps not proper things, like Master Yoshi Teriyaki.
Yoki.
And then one day, eventually, I got his name, and now the fun's over. But yeah,
gotcha.
Good music.
Can't mess around. It was funny the first time he showed it to us. We were like, "You listen to this in the sauna?" Because I agree, the sauna is typically a very subdued, relaxed experience. It's environment. It's very quiet. And the it's very vibey. It's not like it's obnoxious by any means, but it's kind of a fun. It's like if they were to remake Mario Kart. It's that kind of background.
Yeah.
So it's not what I would have expected. But like, oh yeah, we would jam to this in the sauna, and I expected something like really subdued and chill,
like forest sounds.
Yeah, and then you get this fun little like pump up little. Is he Japanese? Sounds Japanese.
I think so. Yes.
Cool, but he was fun little Japanese man with his fun little music. It was awesome. I loved it.
You know, we enjoy ourselves in the sauna.
Yeah, if nobody's in the sauna tonight, when or if we go, we should play some.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and bring all the water we can to burn ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, that's one thing we got to talk about here. Tell us about our sauna experience, James.
Well, sauna can be a very pleasant experience or a deathly experience, depending on on your stamina, and as Finnish would put it, sisu, your ability to just through grit and effort, mental concentration to get through things. And you can toss a bunch of water on the rocks, and you'll get a bunch of steam as a result, and heat up the room real quickly. And it comes in waves depending on how much water you toss at a time. Usually you toss quite a bit, and you'll get this big firm wave of steam that hits you, and they'll go away after a few seconds. And we had quite a number of water bottles. It looked quite hilarious, probably from the outside world.
Like, how many would you guys have?
What do we have? If we're here in Utah, you don't typically have a bucket of water, so we probably had like 6 water bottles, 7 water bottles. But in like a normal, typical Finnish sauna.
That's true, because they're smaller, so you don't need as much water for it to get really steamy.
Yeah, usually. So you just have a big old bucket and a ladle, and depending on how good you are at tossing water, means you're a better sauna user.
Is that something you'd be interested in getting, like a bucket and a ladle?
Yeah, I would absolutely be down for it. It would definitely make the sauna experience more enjoyable. It would probably just look a little bit odd here at BYU, maybe walking into the sauna. And there's a dude there with a bucket and a ladle and a sauna cap on.
If anything, I think that like, if I was to walk in and I saw that, I would be like, man, this guy knows what he's doing. He has the whole 9 yards together.
We'd smoke everyone out. So.
That's cool. But yeah, how hot do the saunas typically get in Finland? Because I know the one that we were doing, what was it, like 175, 180 degrees Fahrenheit?
Sure.
I guess they measure it in Celsius.
Yeah, they do it in Celsius. Typically, the temperature honestly doesn't change depending on how much you toss, at least according to the thermostat that's in there. So the thermometer.
Gotcha.
So it'll typically hover around 80. If you're pushing it, you might get like 85 at the very end, but it's usually way hotter than that. It takes a while for the thermometer to move.
So what we experienced the other night, we put on a ton of water, and I had to hunch over because it was so hot. It felt like I was getting a first-degree burn.
Yeah.
It was insane.
That's fair.
Is that at the same level that you were doing it in Finland?
It's definitely not to the same extent, but yeah, you do get that burning sensation quite frequently. Sometimes you are bent over quite a lot, and if you're tossing really, really hard, you're completely bent over.
Gotcha.
So it's a similar experience.
Accept and tolerate the burning steam on your back and triceps?
I would say you get used to it, but in reality, it's like exercise. You just end up going faster, and you feel the same amount of pain.
Okay.
So you're able to withstand more.
Really?
And then
so there is a tolerance capability that you can build up.
Yeah, certainly. There were people in on my mission. I tossed just a little bit of water, and it would just be a slight little tingle for me, but they would be running out of the sauna at that point.
Interesting.
Of course, they typically hadn't sauna quite as much or as intensely, so it makes sense. But yeah, you can definitely change.
Interesting, because like to me,
tolerate.
It doesn't seem like you're building a callus or strengthening a muscle. It's literally just pain receptors on your body.
Yeah.
So it's strange that you can build up a capability to withstand greater pain.
Yeah, pain tolerance is definitely a real thing. It's one of the advantages of doing exercise frequently, is that the elite athletes, their ability to deal with pain is much higher than typically the lay.
And do you think that's transferable? Like, hypothetical scenario, we take a world-renowned athlete who's used to pain, used to, pushing themselves to the absolute limit and experiencing pain, and then somebody who just hasn't done that. Maybe their pain tolerance is a bit lower. But then let's just say both of them break their leg. Like something that neither person is trained for, they're not ready for that.
Right.
Would you still say that the athlete, the person who's used to pain, like some of that pain tolerance transfers over to them breaking their leg and being in better shape than someone who's not?
This is purely hypothetical.
Yeah. I have no idea.
I haven't done any research on it. Yeah. So I feel like to some extent, yeah, there would have to be a slight advantage for he who is able to withstand more pain.
Yeah.
For example, if we were to take this to an even greater extreme, he had a 5-year-old break his leg or something. And for example, if they get just a little bit too warm, they'll get a little mad, a little bit angry, or even like a 3-year-old, for example, if it's just a little bit too warm, they'll start crying, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But us, we're able to deal with a little bit more discomfort than, for example, a 4-year-old. So
gotcha.
I think there would be a difference.
And it makes sense that it would be transferable. Like if you're used to pain tolerance, like if you are that sprinter, you're used to feeling pain in your legs, like lactic acid as you're sprinting.
Yeah.
But then if something happens to you on your back or something, maybe that pain tolerance does transfer over. Like that makes sense from an intuitive standpoint.
Yeah. And maybe your ability to deal with pain might be localized. So, for example, an aerobic athlete can deal with a bunch of pain in their lungs, kind of thing, like carbon dioxide buildup, but they might not be able to withstand a heavy squat session, for example.
Gotcha.
That might be a different kind of pain that they're not able to tolerate. So,
have you ever seen those UFC fighters who strengthen their shins and like kick pulls and they like I feel it's called like scraping or something? You get like a hard stick and like rub it against your shins.
Interesting.
Have you ever done that before?
I've never even come close to it.
Well, you are not missing out. I did it once. I was like, why do people do this? This is insane. But I saw an X-ray, like a side-by-side X-ray between a UFC fighter's shins and just a normal person's shins.
Sure.
And there is significant greater bone density on the UFC fighter's shins. Like that's something you can train in. That's something you can strengthen. And I feel like that's such a unique aspect of pain tolerance.
Yeah, that's unique. It reminds me of gum chewing, honestly, and how gum chewing puts a stress on the bones around and the muscles around your jaw, of course. And over time, actually, by chewing hard foods, typically, like back in the day, people would be consuming a bunch of fibrous foods.
Yeah,
and that would build it up. But by chewing heavy gum and whatnot, you can actually build make more space within your mouth.
Yeah.
Like cubic, like super small, like cubic millimeters kind of thing.
Yeah. And
I'm not sure that's the right measurement,
space in your mouth. The people who chew gum and chew hard foods, they actually have a more developed jawline and like a better facial structure. And it's like an attractive thing. I think it may have been Shark Tank. I don't know, but somebody made a product. Have you ever seen it? It's like a
jaw exerciser.
Yeah. It's like you put it in like your mouth and like you chew it and you get that wicked jawline going.
Yeah, I gotta be careful with those things. They can lead to jaw problems because you can add a lot of like way too much stress.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of stress that your body is not used to like that. It's different than eating like some 15 firm carrots, for example.
Such a unique form of mouth exercise.
Yeah, and it puts your jaw in a wacky position too because it's kind of a big ball and whatnot, as opposed to like using the back molars to chew on things.
That's true because the device is like strictly your front teeth.
Yeah, was my understanding. Yeah,
not that I've ever used. I've seen videos. But and sometimes the people who use them, like the demonstrators, they've done it so much, and honestly, they look weird.
They look a little ugly. Yeah, it's kind of like The Weeknd when he took that, like he's trying to make his new. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if I can adequately explain it.
I mean,
when he came out with the song,
look it up
some time ago. And he was making like his ulterior person just for like The Weeknd.
Okay.
And his jaw was just it looked huge, completely like, peculiar.
You get Chad jaw.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Interesting. It's interesting how people like do that. Like that's something they seek out because they want to get a more chiseled face.
Yeah.
It's interesting that works though.
Yeah, it is beneficial. It also helps nose breathing as well. It's able to open up your nasal passageways and you can build more space like that. So
yeah, that's something else that you're an expert on that I want to talk about. And I don't know, maybe I'm throwing out that term too loose here, but you are the most knowledgeable, researched individuals concerning like health, breathing, honestly, just anything in the health and fitness realm. And I know you read a book about breath, right?
That is correct. Yeah, I have read a few things about it.
Yeah, how was that? Like me, I'm a complete layman. I've never read like any literature about how breathing can impact your health.
Yeah, well, you're a little generous with being an expert. Yeah, I consider myself. I've read a few things. Definitely not an expert, but yeah, the research regarding breath is pretty interesting these days. And of course, it's especially odd because most people, because they breathe, they think they might be an expert on breathing. Like, oh, I can breathe. It's not that important.
I've been breathing all my life.
Step 1, breathe in. Step 2, breathe out, kind of thing. Yeah. But there's definitely a technique to it. There are some breaths that are better than others. There's the proper way to breathe and proper ways to breathe. There are breathing techniques. There's carbon dioxide tolerances and whatnot that you can train. But yeah, generally the ideal breath, if I remember properly, is it's about 5.5 seconds in using your nose and then 5.5 seconds out using your nose, which oddly enough calculates to usually about 5.5 liters or something of oxygen a minute, I believe it was. And that's like the perfect breath. And that maybe don't quote me on the numbers, but that's what I remember from James Nestor's book.
And that would be a perfect breath in the sense of you're in a rested state just to maximize oxygen intake or something.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Your input of oxygen and your output of carbon dioxide are at a proper level. Of course, it wouldn't be beneficial if you're trying to do any form of heavy exercise.
Run a 10K and be taking 5.5 second breath.
Yeah, you definitely need more oxygen. That's one of the things you need as an athlete, is trying to see how much oxygen you can consume.
Yeah,
and actually be able to get into your bloodstream as well. Carbon dioxide, that's why it's important. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, using your diaphragm as well. Definitely, belly breathing is much better. Don't use your chest to breathe. It's pretty bad.
Gotcha. So use your belly. What does that look like?
Yeah, so some people will practice by lying on the floor and they'll put their hand on their stomach and then maybe a hand on their chest as well. And you'll try to make sure that your chest doesn't necessarily move all that much, but it's really your stomach. And it'll be 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out.
Really? But it's your lungs that are inflating, right?
So your lungs are inflating, yes, but your diaphragm is the muscle that helps. It sits below it, according to my understanding. And it's kind of like a reverse thing, where you're breathing out, it squishes, like I think it goes up, and then you're breathing in, it'll drop and it'll allow the lungs to open. So you can actually strengthen your diaphragm. And singers will do this too. They'll be very good at belly breathing, as will other people who play instruments, for example. So you can practice belly breathing. There's breathing exercises that focus on diaphragmatic breathing. So it's very much a real thing that's beneficial.
Gotcha. Do you have any idea if one's strength in their diaphragm is connected at all to how much they can breathe in? Like, for example, with those singers, some of those singers can hold a note for like 5 times longer than I ever could. Is that from a strong diaphragm or is that something else?
Sure, there's multiple factors that involve. I would reckon that diaphragmatic breathing definitely plays a part.
Okay.
And of course, if you empty out all the air and then you use your diaphragm to breathe, naturally your lungs will fill up with air without you having to like suck in all that much. It'll just naturally fill the vacuum.
Yeah.
So I can't pull up the quote right now. I don't know the time or the means, but in the James Nestor's book, he quotes an Asian person talking about the perfect breath and how you breath comes in once you breathe it all out. So purposely focusing on the trying to get all the air out, and sometimes there'll be breathing exercise in which you really try and get all the air out, and then air just naturally flows back in. And they liken it to like waves coming up on the beach. How when the water recedes and it comes back up, that's like your lungs filling with air.
Interesting. You know, so I'm studying global supply chain management at BYU, obviously in the business school. And in supply chain, there's a lot of quality measures, a lot of theories, methods, tools, and a lot of them were developed by the Japanese. You get the Toyota Production System, TPS, and they're just renowned for their supply chain capabilities and their quality processes. And it was interesting, one of the notes that my professors made is that the Japanese love their water analogies. So in supply chain, we have all these water analogies. So it's funny to hear another one.
Oh, there you go.
Learning something outside of supply chain. So holds true. But what an interesting little aspect of human life. Breath, something we totally take for granted. Everyone does it, but very few people know how to leverage that.
Yeah, definitely. Most people these days are also, and it talks about it in the book as well, but a lot of people are used to having super low levels of carbon dioxide in their body. And most people think carbon dioxide is a bad thing. It's very much is not. It's good to have carbon dioxide. In fact, if you get rid of degree, certainly. If you have too much carbon dioxide, then you're in trouble. But you need carbon dioxide actually in order to allow the oxygen to actually ingested isn't the right word, but with my nutrition background,
internalized.
Sure, that would work. So you need carbon dioxide in the blood, in your lungs to actually let the oxygen be like absorbed, kind of thing. And a lot of people aren't used to having that kind of level of carbon dioxide, so they'll breathe super shallow and quick breaths, which effectively allows you to almost hyperventilate all the time.
Yeah.
And it makes sure that you don't get that feeling of being suffocated. In fact, the feeling of suffocation is just your body has these certain receptors that realize that your carbon dioxide levels are super high. So, for example, free divers are able to do that for a couple of reasons. But one, because their carbon dioxide tolerance is a lot higher than the normal person's. They can effectively deal with this different kind of pain. And the normal person doesn't do that. And as a result, they're always trying to hyperventilate to keep that carbon dioxide level super low. So
interesting. So you have to train your body to be okay with having high levels of carbon dioxide.
With quotes around it, because in reality it's normal, but most people, like the normal today isn't healthy, even though it's normal. Like the normal diet today isn't very healthy, although it is the norm.
That's fair. So if there was a application, like something that I could start doing in my life today, concerning breathing.
Sure.
What would that be?
Definitely nose breathe. Always nose breathe. Effectively never mouth breathe unless you need to. So heavy forms of exercise would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a short moment of time, but always nose breathe. Definitely using your diaphragm be a proper recommendation in my book. And then trying to practice that perfect breath. So 5.5 in, 5.5 out.
Gotcha. How many times per day do you become cognizant of your breath? Because for a lot of people, I could go a whole day, a whole week. I mean, I don't know, without
Sure.
ever giving a single thought to, you know what, let's shift this baddie into manual and let's do some breathing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I was reading the book, it was effectively the entire time I was reading it, which was really funny because I was on a plane when I was reading this book, on multiple planes actually, oddly enough, and I was able to finish it throughout. But the whole time I was basically just doing an indefinite breathing exercise, and it was hard, and it took some. It was almost meditation.
Mm-hmm.
It was very satisfying actually, but these days I don't think about it quite as much. There are a few practices I'll do throughout the day. So, for example, anytime I'm walking, I'm very mindful of my breath. I'll try and purposely not hold my breath, but make my exhales much longer than my inhales.
Are you trying to hit that 5.5 seconds when you do it?
I'm trying to go a little bit longer, actually, when I'm walking. So I'm trying to maybe inhale for 4 seconds and then exhale for 12 seconds.
Oh, okay.
And I'll do that when I'm walking, which is one of the breathing techniques that helps you allow your carbon dioxide tolerance to increase over time. And this helps me become a better athlete. It allows my body to effectively use like breathing, like normal breathing later. It comes more naturally. So I'll do that. Some people will have little reminders whenever they walk into a door.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have a list of things that they'll run through. So, for example, being a religious person, you could anytime you walk through a door, you could think about your covenants, or you can think about breathing, or having good posture, or walking properly. There's a whole host of things you can do. So,
Gotcha.
some practice.
Do you ever do breath sessions where you lay down and spend like 5 minutes doing breath work? Is that a thing?
It's definitely a thing. There are tons of breathing exercises out there that are absolutely beneficial. As of yet, I haven't been able to devote enough time to that.
I'm sure you've heard of the Wim Hof method, right?
I am a fan of the man, yes.
Okay, cool. Because I know his whole thing is cold plunges, becoming cold tolerant, and all that. But then he also has a whole philosophy about breath work.
Yeah.
And I'm going to totally misquote it. I did at one point and I knew it, but it was like, do like 4 big breaths, deep breaths, and then do like 30 quick breaths, and then breathe in and hold it for as long as you can, and then breathe out and hold it for as long as you can, or something. You're supposed to cycle through that a few times. And supposedly it makes you feel really good. And I felt that myself. Like if I just spent a few minutes and went through the rotation of breaths, I would come away kind of feeling alert, energized, maybe even a little buzzed because maybe my system's flooded with a ton of oxygen. Is that something you would consider doing? Have you ever done that before?
Yeah, I've tried a few of the Wim Hof methods before, and I've had the same experience as you, where you feel you're like almost euphoria at the end of it, and it's an enjoyable experience. And if I was a little bit more, maybe more careful with my time, although I try to be already, I could definitely devote 5 minutes to more breath work and whatnot. So it's almost the Wim Hof method, at least the one that you're describing, is a controlled form of hyperventilation and over oxygenation of the blood. And he touts that it has a bunch of benefits and whatnot. And maybe there's some research out there that supports it. But one of the aspects could be that it acts as a form of exercise, like breathing, like legitimately breathing exercise. You can think of physical exercise. And that if you were to exercise all day, every day, it would be terrible for you. You'd never recover. Yeah. But by putting your body in a situation where it's not usually, it allows the state at which you naturally are to your body goes back to that. What's it called? Homeostasis, I believe is the word. So with breathing, by doing a breathing technique, it allows you to cognitively control it. And then after your body will better be able to keep a more natural and proper breath.
Gotcha. You know, speaking of exercising too much, have you ever talked with Orion Walker about his experience with exercising too much?
I've not, no.
You should chat with him. I want to look it up. It's the same thing David Goggins, I think, got, because Rhabdo. Yeah, I guess it's called Rhabdo. You should look it up. But you're familiar with David Goggins too, right?
I am, yes.
Yeah. Beast
Interesting
guy. world's toughest man, apparently. But yeah, I guess he ran too far or something. I'm probably terribly misquoting the situation. But rhabdo, basically, if you exercise too much, it can shut down a lot of your bodily functions. And Orion got that. I guess he did like a CrossFit workout and maybe even rugby practice afterwards. It's just too much exercise and
Sure.
ended up being hospitalized for a few days because of it.
Mm.
So it's a serious thing. And I previous to coming out here to BYU, I had no idea exercising too much was a thing other than you pass out and probably go to sleep.
Sure.
So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Good in moderation for sure. I'm yeah, I wouldn't want to follow David Goggins' advice entirely on running through all the pain and running till all his joints are wrecked just so he can finish his 100 miles.
Yeah, I hear that's like he broke both of his feet and then just kept running.
So kudos to him, but I think it is a little bit extreme. Yeah. But there are a variety of opinions on there, David Goggins. But
yeah, but I will say this: he has inspired a lot of good people to get out there and get after it. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
I was talking to this one guy at my leadership coaching class, and he ran an ultra marathon every single day of October.
Interesting.
And to me, that sounded fake. I was like, no, you can't do that. Like, that's impossible.
It's a lot of time.
And no, he said he'd wake up super early in the morning and he'd run a marathon. He'd go to school. And then later that day, he'd run like another 5-10 miles. That way you can technically consider it an ultra marathon.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what the exact stipulations are for it to be considered ultra marathon.
Probably like 30-something miles.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, he did that every single day of October, apparently. He would actually be a really cool guy to have on this podcast.
Interesting.
Just chat about that experience, because that's crazy.
Yeah, David Goggins he can be an inspiration to a lot of people. In fact, he is in some aspects to me. For example, I try and do cold showers every morning. I think I'm going on probably maybe 2 years at this point. And one of the quotes that he said, it was when he was in the army, I believe, or whatever it was, and they'd go into the water and it'd be freezing, and everybody else would be like, "Oh, it's so cold." And David Goggins had the mindset of, "I'm glad it's cold. Like, I hope it's cold. I want it to be difficult. I don't always want it to be warm and easy and boring." So, not that being easy is boring per se, but whenever I'm taking my cold showers, it can be pretty tough sometimes, and that's what I think about. Like, I'm doing the cold shower for a reason, and I hope it's cold. I want it to be cold.
That's true, because if it's not, then you're missing out on those benefits.
Very, very true.
So you kind of hope for the challenge. I heard something really similar. It's probably David Goggins again, but it's like in boot camp or whatever, they would run and they'd get towards what they thought was the end, but then the drill instructor would be, "Oh, we're doing another lap. We're doing another mile." And everyone's like, "No, please, no." And it's the same mentality. He's like, "You know what? I hope we don't end this run. I hope we run another mile." You know, 'cause with that mentality, you set yourself up for never being disappointed.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if we're running another mile, I hope this would happen. If you don't, you know, like, okay, cool. I get to move on, do something else now.
Yeah. Expectations can definitely prove to be a hindrance. Sometimes if you always set the bar low for everything, you'll rarely be disappointed. Not necessarily the best piece of advice out there, but
set the bar to difficulty mode. That way when difficulty comes, you're not surprised.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Well, good on you, man. Cold showers every morning. Like, do you ever wake up cold and you're like, this is the last thing I would ever want to do, is jump in cold water?
Maybe not the last thing I want to do, but close to it.
Okay.
Yeah. I these days I typically wake up pretty cold. I like to sleep in the cold. In fact, probably a little bit too cold, but yeah, you wake up and it's cold. Your feet are frozen. I'll typically make breakfast and I'll put it in the freezer to let my oatmeal cool down. I'll go to the shower and I'll turn it on, and I don't want to go to warm. I don't want to tease myself with warm water, so I'll just jump right in.
Straight to cold.
And it's those first 20 seconds and the water's about as frigid as some people's hearts out there. It definitely stings a little bit. But.
Oh boy, how long do you stay in there for?
Good question. Probably, I don't know, probably a good 5 minutes. Cold water.
No way. It's a long time. Just to sit there with the icy daggers digging into you.
Well, you're showering while you're doing it.
Okay, so you actually go through the whole shower.
Yeah, you're
not there just.
I don't just sit there and freeze. So I'm doing stuff, but yeah, those first 15 seconds are purely dedicated to me and Mr. Freeze time.
Just adjusting. Yeah. Dang, dude. Like, whenever I took cold showers, and I put that in air quotes, cold showers, like, I would take a lukewarm shower or a warm shower, and then the last 10, 15 seconds, I'd put it on cold, grit my teeth, and then end it. Like, yeah, a cold shower, like I was probably cheating. So you've inspired me. No, I'm gonna get back on that grind.
Well, smart to end it on cold. That's good. It makes your body have to heat itself back up, and then you get some of the brown fat benefits and whatnot. So always end on cold, unless of course you're going to bed. Then definitely end on warm.
Yeah, because cold wakes you up. It energizes the system, right?
Effectively, yeah. It makes your skin, of course, very cold, and then as a result, your body is like, "Whoa, it's super cold." So the internal body temperature starts to increase. And the reverse is true when you take a hot shower.
Mm-hmm.
Your skin, of course, gets super warm, and then your body's like, "Whoa, this is really hot," so it starts cooling itself down. So and it's reversed, but yeah. So if you're trying to go to bed, for example, and you take a hot shower, your core body temperature actually drops, and that's how you get to bed.
Yeah, because I heard that in order to fall asleep, your body temperature does need to drop. So that makes sense that a hot shower would be conducive to then falling asleep faster. That's how I felt after our super hot sauna that gave me first-degree burns on my back.
That's right.
I slept like a baby, man. I hit that bed, I hit that pillow, and just straight to dreamland. It was so nice.
Oh yeah, saunas are so good for sleep. Very, very good.
That's good. That's where we're gonna hit it tonight. Relive the experience.
That's right.
I say that with enthusiasm now, but we get in there, and I'm gonna be, what have I got myself into?
You know.
No, that's good on you for pushing yourself mentally, physically, spiritually. It's an inspiration to me, and I'm sure a bunch of other people too. You're a beast, man.
We try.
Dude, random thing. Speaking of weird experiences that bring you some pleasure, I had a friend of mine give me, it's not smelling salts. It's, I think it's from Thailand or something. It's my backpack. Let me see if I can grab it real fast. But basically, you smell it, and on the packaging, it says that it's supposed to relieve a headache. And I'm not a person who gets a lot of headaches, so I can't speak to the truth regarding that. But yeah, it's this little green container.
Interesting.
So I have some herbs, some menthol. I can't really read the language on it because I'm not fluent in whatever it is. But it looks like Thai.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You want to open it up, give it a sniff? I feel like I'm coercing you into something. It's just menthol and herbs, though, I think. Unless my friend didn't tell me what it really was.
Yeah, it definitely smells pretty good. It has some menthol in there. It has some other herbs and whatnot. It just looks like a bunch of leaves, honestly, but it smells pretty good.
It's nice. No, I like it. Every now and then when I'm falling asleep in class, I'll bust it out and give it a quick whiff. And
you must get some odd looks.
Yeah, everyone probably thinks I'm crazy.
It's like, what is he doing?
Yeah, that's why I try to be subtle about it.
It's kind of like a sound of scent.
Yeah, that's nice.
It does smell very good.
I like that.
Good menthol.
But yeah, fun little theme. I'll probably have that friend on a podcast too sometime. Roman, he's a cool guy.
That's fair.
But yeah, man. Anything else? I feel like we've talked about kind of your mission, which was a huge part, and health and fitness and philosophies there. Anything else you want to hit on?
Yeah, that sounds pretty extensive. That covers a good amount of what I love. It hasn't included the gospel in any entirety, but I'm not one to provide some absurdly insightful commentary on the gospel plan, but speaking is a big part.
Regarding church and the gospel, have you got a calling yet in your ward?
I almost circumnavigated the whole thing, not on purpose, but Bishop asked a few times if I had a calling, and I said no, and he said, "We'll get you one. We'll get you one." And eventually,
you're in this limbo state.
It was probably about a week or two ago. He finally extended the calling to me, so we were already over halfway through the semester. But he did extend me a calling. I'm currently a door greeter and an encourager of institutes. So
nice. How long ago did he give you that calling?
It's probably 2.5 weeks ago at this point, 3 weeks maybe. It was quite recent.
So you get a solid 5 weeks of the semester.
That's right. Yeah, I tell them welcome. And I'm usually positioned on the side door too, so I'll say hi to like the 3 people that walk the side door. But
I mean, it's probably where you want to be, right?
Usually, it is good to interact with people. I find them pretty pleasant to be around these days.
That's good. I'm glad you're liking your ward. I think that's huge.
There's some good people there. I don't know most of them, and most of them are strangers to me. But I have a few good friends. My roommates are great. And learned a lot from people.
Cool. I'm glad you like your roommates. I think that is one of the most potentially overlooked factors that really dictates a positive or negative college experience. If you get good roommates, it is amazing. Like college is fun. Like even if classes are bad, even if everything else is bad, if you have good roommates you're like around and you do stuff with, I think it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, then it's kind of the worst. So I'm glad that both you and Tanner got good roommates.
Yeah, they've been pleasant folk to be around. So
Are they from Utah?
I don't think so. No, I don't know where all of them are from.
You guys haven't got to that part yet.
I'm sure we have. I'm not too good at memorizing that. I have their names down and whatnot.
The most important part.
Yeah, that's right.
At least you got that.
Honestly, that's a big upgrade from what I would have done previously, maybe. So,
Oh, good.
but they're great. They're all doing something health related. I'm the only one that's not, and everyone that's moved into the apartment has changed to a health major of some sort. So I'm the oddball out.
Which is so funny because you love health.
I do
and
love
you'd be
it.
so good at it.
And the odd thing is they've asked me questions about nutrition and physical movements and mobility work and whatnot. So they have the molecular biology down, but most people don't typically study the application of any of it. So I have the application, I just don't have the intricacies, and they have all the intricacies and not the application. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah. Which is funny because if I had to choose one, the application or the theory, I would totally go with the application. I
Oh,
would rather
absolutely.
know what to do than, oh, here's all the intricacies and the synergies and how everything interacts.
Absolutely.
But if you never apply that information, you're not really getting anywhere.
Yeah, that's partially why I'm not going into it as much as interesting as biology and anatomy and chemistry are to me. It's not as interesting as the application. And of course, it can just be a step on the road to get to where you want to be, but you do have to climb quite a bit of steps in order to get to the point where you can actually apply things in a way which I would find interesting. So that's why I get to make the switch to one of those majors.
Gotcha. So you just don't want to jump through the hoops to get to where you would like to be.
Yeah, and I care a little bit less about learning all the holes in the skull as opposed to maybe learning how I can actually move my body in better ways and whatnot. I can circumnavigate the whole anatomy part. Of course, it would be helpful because then I could start creating my own exercises that are beneficial that maybe work on better leverages and whatnot within the body to maybe strengthen them. And then, of course, I could be very particular with how I exercise in that manner. But you could get most of the way there. It's like a bell curve kind of thing where the more effort you put in, then eventually the less output you get. And by learning about the applications, I find that I can get a lot of good out of it without needing to go into all the nitty gritty details.
Yeah, and that's kind of the amazing thing about the modern age with the internet, technology, YouTube. You can learn so much.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, college is awesome. I feel like I've learned a ton that I couldn't maybe learn otherwise, but especially in regards to application, there's so much to just grasp out there for free. So I think if you want to learn about health and nutrition and stretching or mobility work or exercise, there's a million videos that you can go watch and that will teach you arguably more and more succinctly than a college class.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, college classes can sometimes be they give you good knowledge and different perspectives that I might not get if I do my own research, but yeah, I can definitely speed up the process of learning what needs to be done by circumnavigating the whole scholarly aspects of it all.
Just bump around it. I mean, you probably knew. I actually wanted to be a doctor back in the day.
That's fair.
Like, I remember writing my like 8th grade paper in order to graduate, if that's what you do. After you get out of 8th grade, you graduated in high school.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you made it from one grade to the next.
That's right.
But yeah, I wrote in my paper because you were supposed to talk about which profession you wanted to go into and what steps you're going to take today to get there. And I was all gung-ho about being a doctor. And then I talked with a lot of family friends and family members who are doctors. And they said, if you don't love the process, like if you don't love that, then maybe consider something else. Just because it's grueling, it's long, and burnout rates are super high. And for me, I think what a doctor does is super noble and super cool, but I don't love the anatomy. Or actually, anatomy could be cool, but I feel like it gets super intricate and in-depth beyond what you would really need to know to be an effective doctor within your sphere.
You're right.
I wouldn't love the chemistry. I wouldn't love the biology. And that deterred me. So That's why I'm not a doctor. I'm studying business instead.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So it's interesting that you're in a similar spot because you're studying or planning on studying information systems, correct?
That's the goal for now. Yeah.
Cool. What's your thought process there? Like, what do you want to do in that sphere?
So according to my understanding, there's about 2 avenues that I'm aware of that I could go into, and I haven't done either of them, so I'm entirely uneducated on the matter. But I'm aware that I could go into scholarly pursuits. I could get a PhD, become a professor, and start teaching. Mostly do research, but do teaching on the side. Or I could go into the work field and do that, and essentially whatever field I want to. For the most part, tech is pretty versatile, and people are always looking for individuals who have hard skills that can code and also interact on the people front and be able to decide what customers want. And I'm not necessarily a computer engineer, and I won't be just glued to my computer necessarily. So I find that to be quite appetizing. And I think what the ideal might be if I choose not to become a professor and I decide to work in the workforce, then it might be kind of nice to potentially work for a health field or for a health company, so I could somewhat be involved with it, but I don't have to go through all the grueling hours of learning the intricate details of everything. So it would be nice to still be involved with health or bodily movement of some sort with information systems would be.
Yeah.
With my naive, uneducated freshman self, that sounds quite
the best take you have.
That's right. That probably won't happen, but that is a route.
I don't know. No, it sounds like best of both worlds. You love health, you love nutrition, fitness, and you can still work in that sphere, but just doing a different role.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy coding?
I haven't done enough to ultimately decide on this. I've been involved in a few coding classes in middle school, or I guess clubs is the proper word for it. And then I did a little bit of coding in high school, but not enough to say that I can actually code. I wouldn't say that I could code you even Hello World at this point. But the times I have done it, I found it to be a little satisfying that I could solve some easy problems and some significant problems using computers. And typically the limiting factor is not the computer, but your ability to connect the dots between formulas and be able to apply it in a proper way. So I find that to be quite interesting. Not that I'm good and I don't have any skills yet to do it, but
cool.
We'll see what happens.
That's cool. And you're taking the information systems prerequisite class next semester.
That is correct. Yeah.
Gotcha. You looking forward to that?
A little bit. I've heard mixed opinions about it, but generally, yeah, I'm quite excited.
Okay, cool. I'm sure you're gonna kill it. I thought it was a great class, but I also took it from my brother, so
yeah,
maybe a little bit of nepotism.
That
but
does help.
No, he was a great instructor. He did such a good job, and I learned a ton. So, yeah. What does the long term look like for you outside of a career? 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Do you want to move back to California? What are you going to do?
Yeah, I haven't done too much thinking on this generally, so I don't think I have a fully developed opinion or view on 5 or 10 years. But so we'll see. I don't know.
We're gonna interview you again.
Yeah,
15 years.
Give me some time. I'm not educated enough, but I don't know if I'd like to stay in Utah for that long. As much as I love it, I definitely enjoy other areas, maybe a little bit more than I currently enjoy Utah. So we'll see. Of course, if a job lands me here, then so be it. But and what other factors come into play in my life. So we'll see. But I enjoy family, so it'd be nice to be wherever they may be. And there's not a ton out here. There's a few, and I love them. So
yeah.
We'll see. But mother and father are glorious folks. So wherever they be, it'd be nice if I'm single Pringle still. It would be fun to be with them for a little bit. So
that's true. Good people. That's cool. I know back in the day you were really big into mountain biking. Your bike was named Shaniqua.
That's right.
Yeah.
Dear Shaniqua.
You still have her? Is she still kicking?
Not here, probably at home, yeah.
Okay.
So
is that something you'd get back into?
Perhaps. It definitely depends on future if I get married or whatnot. Mountain biking isn't necessarily the safest sport out there, so
true.
Family life, it might not be too conducive to that. And it's almost like golfing too. In order to go mountain biking, it typically takes a few hours of your time. And I would feel a little bit bad on going biking every other weekend or something like that. I'd be like, I'm going to leave you guys on there so I can go right down the trail. Yeah. And it's super pleasant and whatnot. And wholesome recreational activities are pretty important to individuals and to the church as a whole. But it's fun. But mountain biking is definitely an expensive sport if you buy a bike. a good one at least, you're typically dropping a couple thousand,
Yeah.
2,000 for an entry level full suspension mountain bike, and that wouldn't even get you a super nice one.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've heard about people
mediocrely
dropping
okay.
like $7,000 on these really nice performance bikes.
Oh, easily, yeah. So,
which blows my mind because when I heard how expensive your bike was, because how much was yours? Like $2,000?
my bike? Oh, not at all.
No?
No, it was probably like 500, 600.
Oh,
But
okay.
I worked
Gotcha.
at various bike shops, so I got free parts all the time, and I added it on. So now it's a Frankenstein bike, and now it's probably worth a lot more than what it originally was. So I have some nice parts on it now, but
That's pretty nice. Kind of Frankenstein it together, like building Legos out here.
yeah,
But that tends to be the case, like with computers, like if you buy one just stock off the market, it's not as valuable as if you like custom make all the processors and GPUs and CPUs. Like people go crazy with those things.
Yeah.
By Frankensteining together the good parts, you build a better product.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I did with my bike, and she's chilling at home, probably not doing some wonderful things, just
I don't
chilling
know if
there.
anyone's using that.
No, she's probably not being used too much, dear.
Just collecting dust.
Dear Shaniqua.
Next to the treadmill.
Yeah, that's right. Well, actually, we got rid of that earlier.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Like a garage sale or what?
I think we just threw it away. Yeah.
Okay. That's so sad.
It only took a 15 year, 20 years or whatever it was. But
it would be interesting. I wish treadmills had like a log of how many miles were ran or walked on that.
That would be kind of neat.
Yeah. Because I wonder how much use was actually got out of that.
I remember back when we were up in Twainhart and whatnot, when we had the treadmill, we had the computer and the treadmill right next to each other. We would take turns. Somebody on the computer playing something, and the other person on the treadmill, like running or walking, and like watching them on the computer.
I remember playing with like Hot Wheels on the treadmill. Like I don't think I ever ran on that thing.
Really?
Just like playing with my cars, watching them go so fast.
Yeah, kids can entertain themselves if we weren't stuck inside the screen the whole time. But we had a lovely childhood.
Yeah,
we had a good childhood.
Not sure that, man. Well, hey, thanks so much for chatting.
Yeah,
is there anything else you want to hit on before we close out?
Yeah, unless you have any other questions, I'm doing quite dandy.
I can talk with you all day, but I'm excited to hit the sauna. Also to eat dinner, man. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of hungry.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay.
We got a carbo load before Thanksgiving. That way you're prepared.
That's right.
Have you ever heard that, though? Where in order to eat a lot of food, you actually need to, like, consistently eat a lot of food because it, like, I don't know what the physiology is.
Expand your stomach a little bit beforehand or something.
Expand your stomach. So if we want to be MVP on Thanksgiving Day, we got to start prepping now.
Well, I think seeing as we're in our 20s and we're male and we're growing, and hopefully athletic and active, I think we'll already be in the top 90% probably.
How many calories do you eat a day? If you had to ballpark it, because you probably don't track it.
I don't track it. I hate tracking. Yeah,
I agree.
That gets us in a different conversation. Yeah, I've never tracked my calories, and I don't think I ever will. But
if you had to ballpark it, though,
I don't even know if I could be accurate with it. Because I don't know. I eat some oatmeal, I have some chia seeds, some spices. I'll eat it with some peanut butter, and throughout the day I'll have like my lunch, and then various fruits throughout the day. I don't know. I'm definitely getting at least 2,000. Obviously, that's like the natural. But
I mean, just guessing from what I've seen of your diet, you're probably hitting like 5,000 calories a day.
I don't know about that.
Dude, I don't know. Especially back when you were eating like 12 eggs for breakfast.
Oh, yeah. Definitely in high school. My
Gaston, dude.
Yeah, my calorie count was quite. And the odd thing was I wasn't even gaining any weight either. I was burning it all off. So there's 14, 15 scrambled eggs, 2 pieces of toast, cheese, bacon, and bacon bits, and
then you have such
and salt and pepper, and then still had like a massive lunch. You saw my lunch too.
Then a huge dinner.
I don't know. We were burning through calories like crazy back then. So lots of exercise. We would go to the weight room before school for like 45 minutes. After school, we pop in before our sports practices, maybe for another 45 minutes, and then go to school practices for sports, which typically consists about 2 hours. Yeah. And then if it was a shorter practice, then we'd go back to the weight room for like 30 minutes to an hour. So we were probably logging like 3 hours of exercise a day in high school. Easy. So we needed to ingest. That's actually why I asked for the microwave. It's my sophomore year of high school. Oh, you hear that story?
For the high school did like I forget what they called it, but pretty much you could like ask for gifts and the school would provide those gifts.
Yeah, so the local casino wanted to support people who didn't necessarily have the best Christmas. at home, but the school wanted everyone to fill it out, no matter how much money your parents made. And
Yeah.
I felt bad. I was like, our family is fine. There's some other people at the school that probably need it better. So I didn't want to put anything big. Other people would they had a small gift, a medium gift, and a big
Because
gift.
I remember my friend got a mini fridge.
Yeah.
And her family was well off. So I was like, what in the world? I should have signed up for this.
Yeah, so anybody could do it, and they encourage everyone to do it. So I did. So my small gift, I probably put like a piece of gum.
Yeah.
My medium gift, I might have done like a notebook or something. And then for my big gift, I was like, it'd be so funny to have my own personal microwave, and I could have it in my Suburban. I drove a Suburban
on campus.
So the goal was to be able to I had an adapter in the Suburban, so I could plug it into the Suburban and then heat up my food. So then I never had to wait in a line to heat up my food. I could just go to my car. And I didn't think I was going to get a microwave. Like,
Yeah.
who's going to give a high school student a microwave? But the last gift on the table was this big old package, and I was hoping it wasn't me. But eventually, they called my name.
They're like, Jay Richardson.
There's a big school assembly right there up in Somerville, and I'm there just like chatting with my friends, having a grand old time. And I was really hoping it wasn't me. I didn't tell anybody. But then they called my name, and I just heart dropped.
But you were excited too.
I was excited.
You didn't get a microwave.
It was so funny. I went up there. I was so embarrassed. I was in front of like 600, 800 students, and I took off the wrapping. There it was, brand new microwave.
Was it a nice one?
It wasn't like that nice. It was probably a little cheap, but
hey, it worked.
It worked, and it was a microwave. Lifted on my shoulders like a boombox. Took my picture and sped walked to my car as fast as I could to get the thing out of there because I was so embarrassed. But It was a good thing. I used it a few times. Unfortunately, it did not work in the Suburban.
Oh, bummer.
It required a little bit more power than what the Suburban was giving out. But luckily, there were outlets throughout the school. So I'd do it after school. I'd go up to
You'd bring your microwave from the car.
So no, I changed my parking spot at Somerville after school because soccer practice would be, of course, at the field, and my car would be parked in the student parking lot, which is a little ways away. It wasn't that bad, but I would drive it over to the new parking lot and whatnot. And since at the time we switched off with the girls would practice for 2 hours, and then the next week we would go first and whatnot. So we were after the girls. So I had 2.5 hours to kill basically after school. So I go out there. I had Camilla stereo. I'd plug it into the wall. And we'd play that with all the buddies, and we'd be listening there while the girls would be playing soccer. And I'd also plug my microwave in, and I'd cook my oatmeal or something like that. So it did go to use, but not as the way I originally planned it to.
Gotcha. But hey, that worked. What a Christmas miracle.
It was pretty funny.
You got a microwave.
It gives me a good story to tell.
So what happened to it? You still have it?
So I believe we brought it down to Visalia at some point in time. And then after that, it disappeared.
Mysteriously disappeared.
Probably a garage sale.
It's funny how stuff like that happens. You leave home, and all of a sudden you come back and all your stuff's gone. Mom's like, "Huh, weird."
Luckily, it was just a microwave, and it wasn't very nice, and I didn't care about it too much, so it wasn't that big of a deal.
However,
I do have it's in my memory. So.
Man, what a beautiful memory.
There you go.
Happy for you, man. Well, hey, once again, thanks for chatting. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and hopefully the audio quality works well this time.
Yeah, we'll see.
Excited to check it out. Bye, everyone.